Hey guys, so I finally went and saw Spider-Man Homecoming, so this is going to be my review. For those of you who don't know how my reviews work, the first part of the review is just totally spoiler-free, and the second half is basically just tons of spoilers, talking about the movie like you've already seen it, maybe multiple times. Just a fair warning, I will mark, of course, when there's going to be spoilers, and beyond that point, if you haven't seen the movie, don't watch. But, unless you don't mind spoilers, obviously. But okay, for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, Spider-Man Homecoming it's worth the watch, but you really have to kind of wait for it to get good. The villain is great. Michael Keaton as the Vulture is actually really cool. I liked his design from the very start. He looks very cool. But he's also a very good character. Michael Keaton is a great actor, so he was a good choice for the villain. I don't know if you've noticed, but he seems to get like a lot of bird-type roles, like flying roles. He played Batman, Bats Fly. He played Birdman, and now he's playing the Vulture. I don't know, there's kind of a funny pattern going on here. The characters, on a whole, I like most of this Spider-Man, and I honestly dislike most of the other characters. I don't really like Ned. I think Ned's kind of annoying, honestly. What's your name? Michelle is just really weird. I don't, know how I feel about her because she seems like a cool person. And, I mean, so does Ned. Like, on their very core, they seem like they're alright people. But they just do and say really weird, just really weird things. The characters that I did like were, I mostly liked Aunt May. I mostly liked Peter Parker. I liked the Vulture. I liked Iron Man, obviously. And I liked Liz Allen, or I guess it's Liz Toombs now. Maybe they didn't take the last name. But the character who is the equivalent of Liz Allen to the comics, I like her. Overall, the movie is... If you can just take something as fun, you would like this movie. But if you're like a Spider-Man fan, this honestly mostly isn't a movie for you until the third act or so, which is actually a pattern that I'll elaborate on in a few seconds here. But Marvel seems to be going this route. This is why I liked Age of Ultron so much, I think. Where the third act is really where, they get comic booky or whatever. Or they get a little bit more truer to the character. And Age of Ultron just had all of that throughout the movie. There was no break, you know what I mean? There was no break to be less comic booky or less this or less that. It was just a good ride throughout the whole movie. Spider-Man Homecoming doesn't do that. It falls into the pattern of the third act is where the really good stuff is. The rest is they're trying to be funny too often almost, because Spider-Man is he can be a funny character, obviously. His humor is a big part of it, but it's his humor. You know what I mean? It's not so much every 10 seconds there's something to laugh at. Overall, I would say go watch the movie. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it again, honestly. I might watch the third act again, but yeah, I don't think I'd watch the whole thing again. I don't know if I could stand the the first two acts, which I know sounds really bad, but I'll elaborate on it in the spoiler part if you're willing to listen to spoilers. If you've already seen it, that's great. So that's the end of the spoiler-free review. Spoiler review starts now. Peter Parker is a weird character in this movie because the reason I like most of him is because I can relate to him in the sense that everyone around him is kind of immature and weird. Literally everyone. Even his best friend, Ned, I don't like him. He's annoying. He's repetitive. He's very immature. I'm not sure why Peter hangs out with him, to be honest. He does seem like a cool guy at his core. And, but the thing is that there's a good contrast, whether that was accidentally made or not. There's a good contrast with it that you see Peter is more mature than that. He is going through something that I feel like I've gone through, which is a good relatable aspect to this character, which is he's surrounded by all these people who are kind of going about stuff wrong. They're being weird about stuff, impractically weird. They're not really growing up. They're not spending their teenage years growing into the people who they want to be. They're just kind of doing kid stuff when they should be thinking about who they really are. At least that's in my view. And Peter has this confliction that everyone faces, where it's what matters more, fitting in or doing the right thing? You know what I mean? And he ends up choosing to do the right thing most of the time, which I think is good. But it's also weird because we're at a stage with his character, even though this is his first movie and he's 15 in this movie, Uncle Ben's dead already. They reference it a little bit in the movie. I don't know if Uncle Ben dies during the Battle of New York. I think that's kind of what happens. Um, but Uncle Ben's death is what motivates him to grow up and be a man instead of being a boy. And we don't really see that here. It's this adventure that propels him forward like that. And while I love seeing him propelled forward like that, don't get me wrong, it was very satisfying by the end. It doesn't really match up with his character. But I do like the fact that he grows. He ends up turning down being on the Avengers, and that is just like, to me, that's a total Spider-Man thing to do. Especially with the fact that it's not because he's not ready yet, I don't think, in his eyes. I think he's let go of just wanting to be this Avengers fanboy who gets to be on the Avengers, which is what I feared they would turn him into, sort of. And that's why I don't like the first two acts, is because the first two acts, he acts like a fanboy who wants to join the Avengers. And while that does serve the purpose of him growing up in the movie, it's annoying. It really is annoying to watch. It's not pleasant to watch. And it's not like a Logan unpleasant, where it's like meaningful unpleasant. Well, I suppose it is meaningful, but it's not poetic. It isn't this or isn't that. You just kind of watch him make bad decisions for a lot of the movie, and it's stuff that Spider-Man just wouldn't do. Like the stuff in Logan, that stuff Wolverine would do. You know what I mean? They stayed very true to the Wolverine character. I feel like they've strayed pretty far from Spider-Man in this one, and in a direction that I personally did not like. I did like that he grows up and that he turns down the Avengers. There was a scene, I think, where the break finally happens, which could be the point where he leaves the homecoming dance to go fight the Vulture. But I think the most defining moment of this is what Spider-Man is, this is what Peter Parker is when, like, and he's a kid, he's crying, he's trapped under this rubble. He probably feels like he's going to die under there. And it's terrifying for him. And he starts saying to himself, come on, Spider-Man, and he just lifts up all the cement. And that, to me, is like the moment he turns from Spider-Boy, Diversity in Comics, it's a channel I really like, kind of calls it Spider-Boy. And that's how you feel this whole movie. To me, that is Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's no longer he's no longer this immature kid. He's mature for his age. He makes the right choices, even though he doesn't really get respect for it, because he knows he should do the right thing, no matter what anybody says. That is what is at the core of the Spider-Man character. And I'm hoping that in the sequels and in his brief appearance in Infinity War that he's having, we'll see more of that side of his character, because that is Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like, there are just defining moments in every single Spider-Man movie, and, well, I shouldn't say every single, but, like, I think the ones that had really good Spider-Man moments are Spider-Man Homecoming with the lifting the rubble, Spider-Man 2, when the New York people unmask him and they kind of learn a little bit about who he is. He's like a, straight into college kid who's, one guy on the train says he's no older than my son. And it's like this really, and they all stand in front of him while Dr. Octopus is coming, and they're like, to get to Spider-Man, you've got to get through me. That is like it isn't Spider-Man doing anything in that scene, but he does other things throughout that movie that, like, honestly makes it probably still the best Spider-Man movie they've made thus far. It's just really good. It's very Peter Parker. It's very Spider-Man. It's very how people react to Spider-Man sometimes. And I think the moment for The Amazing Spider-Man 1, I didn't really like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The Amazing Spider-Man 1, though, had some pretty cool Spider-Man-esque moments, even though the ending was very not Spider-Man-esque. I did like that movie. And I think one of the cool scenes with that would have to be the scene either... I think it is actually the one where he gets shot in the leg by the police, and he just keeps going. That, to me, is like... Spider-Man would totally do that. You know what I mean? No matter how old he is. He wouldn't, like... He doesn't give up on stuff. He's not, like... he looks at his leg, he webs it up, and he's just like, suck it up. You know what I mean? There are things bigger than me happening now. And the thing with Homecoming is we don't really get a sense of that. And we don't really get the same sense we get from Tobey Maguire. Not that we need to get the same sense from either of those series, but I would like to see him be more mature in the future. I don't think immature Peter Parker really works. I never really even viewed Peter as immature, to be honest. He's never been an immature character to me. The original Peter Parker is a mature person who is kind of laughed at because he's mature. He's not like everybody else, and so he doesn't really fit in, and so he's bullied, he doesn't get the girl, all that stuff. But when he becomes Spider-Man, he is able to be more comfortable with that. He's able to look at himself in the mirror and say, you know what, I don't really care what other people say about me. I'm me. This is who I am. I do good things for people. I do very good things for my city. And no one can stop me from doing things like that. And it's very selfless, and it's very just core Peter Parker, core Spider-Man. And by the end of Homecoming, that is who he is. And I do like that. But again, I'm sorry to keep complaining about characters. Michelle is just a weird character. I really hope they don't make her the new Mary Jane. They shouldn't do that. She's just such a weird character. Like, maybe she's making fun of her professor or something like that, but when she brings up the slavery thing, it's like, so do you, not draw the pyramids of Giza? Or is it like, I'm sorry to get political, there does seem to be, this weird double standard where it's like, and I think, I live in America, so maybe I only see it on the American front more, but it's to the extent that it's like, people look at the Martian Monument and they're like, oh, that's not really so great, it was built by slaves. I'm sure that a lot of those people are like, oh yeah, the pyramids are great. You realize the pyramids were built by thousands of slaves, right? You know what I mean? There's a double standard here that doesn't really seem to apply, and I don't like Michelle because she's either just being weird and just using that to be weird, or she's actually thinking that way, which to me just makes her an unlikable character. I think Liz was fine, actually. Liz was a fairly normal person, not that you have to be normal to be a likable character, but she was a genuinely likable person. There wasn't anything that was off-putting about her. There wasn't anything that makes you feel very uncomfortable about her. It was just yeah, she's pretty cool. She has her own issues going on. She's the average high school girl in her senior year having to deal with the fact that her dad's now in jail. You know what I mean? That's what I like. And the fact that her new boyfriend, Peter, doesn't really seem to care about her. But the thing is that he cares very deeply about her. And that's another cool Spider-Man thing, is that even though he's done the right thing, he's gotten the short end of the stick, he's going to keep being Spider-Man anyway because that's doing the right thing. That's what I like. And as for the AI and the suit itself looks great, but I don't dig the AI. I really don't. It feels like an Iron Man film with that. And especially because it's weird that he and Karen, which is the AI's name, get not intimate, but he shares intimate details about his life with her and asks her for advice, and she gives advice. It's more like he's talking to a telephone service, customer service person who he has become friends with than he's talking to an AI. I don't like the fact that he has AI. I don't like the fact that he's somewhat close with this AI and that she's giving him advice. I'm not a fan. Not a fan of Karen. Not really a fan at all. Ned Leeds isn't I'm not sure why Peter's friends with him, because he's constantly talking about giving away his identity, even though he said, no, I'm not telling anybody. There's a scene where he says to Peter, you should just tell everybody. And Peter says, no, I'm not doing that, Ned. And Ned says, oh, okay, then I'll tell everybody. What kind of friend is Ned? That is not only a very stupid thing to say, that's really, almost mean. Because you're trusting, he is trusting you with the information that could, make or break his life. And you are too blind to see that he wants this secret, even though he's told you directly, not even metaphorically to your face, no, nobody can know that I'm Spider-Man. I don't like his character. Flash was cool. I'd like to see him be a little bit more jockey, I think, because Flash is a jock character to me. Who, Diversity in comics is talking about like how it is a cool spin on it, where it's like he doesn't really beat up people. And the truth is that like, yeah, but Flash is a character that beats up people. He just does. That's what Flash Thompson is to me. When I look at Flash Thompson, I'm like, yeah, he might be a troubled kid, but his defining characteristic is he's the stereotypical jock bully who beats up on Peter Parker. But he does say a lot of Flash Thompson-esque things, so I do like the Flash Thompson character overall. Aunt May's fine. Not really the perfect Aunt May, but she's alright. It's cool that she learns that he's Spider-Man at the end. Maybe there's some kind of excuse he comes up with for that. But I've always sort of liked the idea that she secretly knows and doesn't say anything. And I think they've just sort of thrown that out the window, which is a bit of a shame, but I do mostly like her character. And of course, the Vulture has, like, really good motivation. He's the average dude, and you can really relate to how he feels by being, like, the big man is kind of putting us down, so to speak, and this is our shot to rise, to speak truth to power, you know what I mean? But he's going about it wrong. In a lot of ways, by the end of the movie, the Vulture and Peter are two sides of the same coin, where it's like, listen, we both want to look out for the little guy, but Peter's point to him ultimately is, we're not doing it by stealing, we're not going to be this self-righteous Robin Hood, we're going to look out for the little guy in a lawful, relatively lawful anyway, and not selfish way. And I think the Vulture ends up, like, respecting that about him, because the guy who's going to become the Scorpion in the sequel comes up to him in the post-credit scene and asks him, hey, you know, I heard you know who Spider-Man's identity is, tell me. And he lies. He said, no, I don't know who Spider-Man is. I think he has a lot of respect for Spider-Man because he's sort of shown him how to go about speaking truth to power. And I like that. Overall, I would not go back and see Spider-Man Homecoming again. I would go back and see just the third act, honestly. I would not go back and see it. I recommend watching it to you if you really want to see Spider-Man mature and just take on the most terrifying villain possible with nothing but cloth in between him and the villain. To me, that's Spider-Man. He's totally willing to just throw himself on the line for the greater good every single day. And that's really cool. But if you want to see that the whole movie, that's not what you're going to find in Homecoming. Honestly, I am kind of disappointed, but I hope the sequels will play more off his maturity and they'll learn and be better. Let me know what you guys thought about Spider-Man Homecoming in the comments below. For those of you who haven't seen spoilers, you're probably not even watching this, be careful in the comments. I'll leave a comment down below that says that. I'll pin it so that's the first thing you see when you scroll down. There are going to be spoilers in the comments, just so everyone knows. Be careful. There will be a Sign Behind Superheroes this week that I'm doing, so stay tuned for that, guys, and I will see you then. Have a good one.